The acceptance letter, crisp and promising, was still warm from the printer when my mother, Evelyn, crumpled it up with a startlingly casual dismissiveness. It was a thick, glossy envelope, an invitation to a future I had painstakingly engineered. MIT, Computer Science. She laughed. A sharp, brittle sound that felt like a slap across my face, stinging with disdain. Then, with a theatrical flourish, she brushed imaginary dust off her hands, as if discarding something utterly inconsequential, something beneath her notice. "Naomi, sweetheart," she said, her voice dripping with a condescending sweetness. A saccharine tone that always signaled impending manipulation or a thinly veiled criticism. "Be realistic. That's not a career for girls like you. It's too technical, too demanding. You're meant for something more graceful, something that allows you to blossom socially." My name is Naomi Vance. I was 18 years old, standing in the bright, unforgiving light of our pristine kitchen. And that brutal moment, watching my full-ride scholarship to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology disappear into our gleaming stainless steel garbage can, was the day I learned exactly how much my family truly valued my dreams. Spoiler alert, it wasn't much. MIT, my dream school, the very pinnacle of my aspirations, the culmination of years of relentless effort, late-night coding sessions fueled by lukewarm coffee, grueling AP classes that pushed me to the brink of exhaustion, countless science fair projects that won regional and national accolades, a full scholarship meaning no financial burden on my parents, something I'd painstakingly ensured by excelling beyond all expectations. But it wasn't about the money. Not to them. It was about control. It was about their vision, their narrative, for my life, which rigidly excluded anything so unfeminine as a computer science degree. "But Mom, it's a full scholarship!" I protested, my voice trembling, raw with a desperate plea, tears stinging my eyes, threatening to spill over. "I wouldn't cost you anything. I'd be self-sufficient." "It's not about the money, Naomi." My father, Richard, interjected, his voice cutting through mine like a cold, precise blade. He didn't even bother to look up from his financial section of the Wall Street Journal, its pages rustling dismissively, creating a paper barrier between us. He was a successful architect, meticulous in his designs, lauded in his professional circles, but utterly oblivious to the complex, crumbling emotional architecture of his own family. "Your brother Leo needs support for law school. Real support, not some fantasy about playing with computers. His future is secured, and that takes priority." Leo, my younger brother by 4 years, currently sprawled across our plush living room couch in yesterday's clothes, unshaven, a gaming controller clutched in his hands, completely oblivious to the conversation that was brutally reshaping both our futures. The golden child, the designated successor to my father's prestigious firm, though he'd barely passed undergrad with a 2.7 GPA while I graduated summa cum laude from my high school, already having completed several college-level programming courses. He was their hope, their legacy, their precious boy who could do no wrong, even as he systematically squandered every opportunity handed to him. Playing with computers. The words tasted bitter, like ash and resentment. My heart clenched, a burning knot of indignation forming deep in my chest. "Dad, I built the entire inventory system for your firm last summer. The one that streamlined your operations and increased your profits by 30% last year. That's not playing with computers. That's real business. That's innovation. That's different, Naomi. That's helping family." Mom's smile was the kind that never reached her eyes. A thin, brittle line that cracked under pressure, revealing the steel beneath. "Which is exactly why you need to be realistic about your future. Leo needs you. He needs your support. And we need you to be sensible about your path. Perhaps a local secretarial course, or something in event planning, something more ladylike." Sensible. That word became a brand seared into my soul. Sensible meant sacrificing my future for his. Sensible meant shelving my dreams of building innovative software, of shaping the digital world, of becoming a titan in the tech industry, to become, what? A dutiful daughter who stayed home, perhaps took a local community college course in something practical, and eventually married someone suitable to assist Leo's burgeoning legal career? The idea choked me. It was a slow, suffocating death of ambition. I tried to argue, to plead, to make them see the profound unfairness, the blatant cruelty of their decision. I pointed out my achievements, my potential, the sheer logic of a full scholarship versus the exorbitant cost of Leo's private law school tuition. But it was like talking to a brick wall, smooth and unyielding, absorbing every word without response. Their minds were made up. Leo's future was paramount. Mine was utterly expendable. The full scholarship letter, a testament to my hard work, my talent, my very essence, lay crumpled in the bin, a symbol of their absolute disregard, a funeral shroud for my discarded dreams. That night, I cried myself to sleep, a grief so profound I thought it would consume me. It wasn't just the scholarship. It was the chilling realization that my parents didn't truly see me. They didn't value my intellect, my ambition, my very being, beyond how it could serve their favored son. I was a resource, a tool, something to be managed and deployed for the benefit of the family, which, in their lexicon, exclusively meant Leo. The bitterness settled deep in my bones, hardening my resolve, transforming my despair into a cold, fierce determination. If they wouldn't support my dreams, if they would actively sabotage them, then I would build them myself, in secret, and they would never know the true cost of their callousness until it was too late. I swore an oath to myself in the silence of my tear-soaked pillow. I will make them regret this. The next few years were a blur of defiant self-reliance, a relentless pursuit of a future they had tried to steal. I found a job as a junior data entry clerk at a small, struggling tech startup across town, a place so obscure and unglamorous that my parents would never think to ask about it, let alone investigate. Every morning, I would put on a bland, inconspicuous work outfit, force a polite smile, and endure their daily lectures about responsible career choices and how I was doing the right thing by staying close to home and preparing for something practical, presumably waiting for a suitable husband or becoming Leo's assistant. I'd nod, feign agreement, and inwardly seethe, the quiet rage, a constant, burning ember in my core. But after work, my real life began. My tiny, cramped bedroom, the same room where I had dreamed of MIT, became my sanctuary, my laboratory, my command center. I poured every spare moment, every ounce of energy, every drop of my soul into teaching myself advanced coding, complex algorithms, and sophisticated software architecture. I devoured online courses from prestigious universities, free tutorials that cost me only time and sleep, and immersed myself in open-source projects, collaborating with faceless individuals around the globe. My computer screen became my window to the world they tried to deny me, a portal to a future they couldn't control. I worked silently, relentlessly, often until the first hints of dawn, fueled by a potent cocktail of ambition, burning resentment, and an unshakable belief in my own abilities. My meager savings from my data entry job went straight into textbooks, better software licenses, and, eventually, secure cloud server space. My nights were short, punctuated by the rhythmic click of my keyboard, my coffee consumption legendary. I lived like a ghost in my own home, a shadowy figure consumed by a secret mission, an unseen force preparing for an inevitable reckoning. While I was hunched over my laptop, meticulously crafting lines of intricate code, Leo was breezing through law school, generously funded by my parents' seemingly bottomless pockets. They bought him a brand new luxury car, paid his exorbitant rent for a swanky apartment near campus, and even funded his lavish study trips to exotic locations like Cancun and Aspen. His grades were consistently mediocre, his attendance spotty, his legal ambitions vague, but he was the golden boy. Every family dinner, every holiday gathering became a nauseating tribute to Leo's supposed brilliance, his promising future as a lawyer, A future I was silently, ironically, contributing to by staying out of the way, by not demanding resources. Leo's just so talented, so driven. Mom would gush, her eyes shining with blind adoration. He's going to make us so proud. He'll take over your father's firm one day. My presence at these dinners was merely ornamental, a prop in their perfect family tableau, a quiet backdrop to Leo's manufactured glory. I'd nod, smile, and bite my tongue until it bled. The taste of blood in my mouth a constant reminder of their betrayal. One evening, after another excruciating dinner where Leo, bloated with self-importance, bragged about his latest legal internship, secured through Dad's extensive network, of course, I had a breakthrough. It wasn't a sudden flash of genius, but the culmination of months of tireless work. I had been developing a revolutionary inventory management system, something far more intuitive and efficient than anything currently on the market. It was designed to integrate seamlessly with existing business infrastructures, requiring minimal setup and offering real-time data analytics, predictive forecasting, and automated reordering. It was brilliant. I knew it. My father's architectural firm, despite its outward success, still relied on an archaic, clunky, inefficient system. The delicious irony of the situation was not lost on me. I decided to take the leap and launch my own tech startup. I called it Nexus Innovations. I poured all my savings, every hard-earned dollar, into hiring a small distributed team of freelance developers and designers I had met through various online forums. Brilliant, hungry individuals who believed fiercely in my vision, my passion, and my code. We worked remotely, mostly at night, across different time zones, connected by constant video calls and a shared, almost feverish passion for innovation. My small data entry salary barely covered my meager living expenses, but the business, driven by my relentless pursuit of perfection and my unwavering belief in our product, began to generate its own revenue. Our first client, a medium-sized e-commerce company specializing in artisanal crafts, saw their profits surge by an astounding 25% within 3 months of implementing our system. Word of mouth spread like wildfire through the tech community. Nexus Innovations began to thrive, quietly, powerfully, outside the glare of my family's dismissive, ignorant gaze. We were a lean, mean coding machine, taking on bigger and bigger projects, growing exponentially with each success. I kept everything a closely guarded secret. My parents, wrapped up in the dazzling, all-consuming saga of Leo's law school journey, never suspected a thing. They still saw me as the sensible daughter, the one who worked her quiet data entry job and stayed out of trouble, occasionally offering unsolicited advice on how I should dress more brightly or find a nice young man. It fueled my ambition. This secret life, this silent rebellion. Every successful project, every new client, every revenue milestone felt like a tiny, triumphant act of defiance against the profound injustice they had inflicted upon me. My success was my armor, my shield, and my weapon, honed in the shadows. 4 years later, the day of Leo's law school graduation arrived, heralded by a flurry of frantic phone calls and texts from my mother. It was the culmination of their efforts, their boundless financial investment, their golden dream finally realized. My parents had planned an extravagant, ostentatious celebration, a reservation at a Michelin-starred restaurant for immediate family, followed by a huge catered party at our house, complete with an open bar, a live jazz band, and a guest list that included every distant relative, family, friend, and business associate they had ever known, all eager to bask in Leo's reflected glory. I had received a terse, almost peremptory text from Mom. "Don't be late for Leo's graduation, Naomi. It's very important. Dress nicely. And please try to be cheerful, not, 'Are you coming?' Or, 'We'd love for you to be there.' Just a command, an expectation of my dutiful presence." I had planned my counterstrike for months, meticulously, calculating every detail. It would be precise, devastating, and delivered at the peak of their self-congratulation, when their pride was at its most inflated. I had reached out to Sarah Jenkins, a tenacious investigative reporter from a prominent local newspaper, known for her exposé on social injustices, family dynamics, and corporate corruption. I'd given her an anonymous tip, hinting at a deeply personal story of parental favoritism, a brilliant daughter sacrificed for a mediocre son, and a shocking revelation that would rock their privileged world. She was intrigued, sensing a deeper, more compelling narrative beneath my initial guarded hints. I had promised her an exclusive, front-row seat to the truth, a scoop that would make her career. She would be there, discreetly observing, camera-ready, an invisible witness to the unfolding drama. I arrived at the university auditorium, dressed not in the demure, sensible floral dress my mother would have preferred, but in a sharp, tailored black pantsuit that exuded power, confidence, and a quiet, undeniable authority. My hair was pulled back in a sleek, severe ponytail, my makeup minimal but impactful, emphasizing my strong gaze. I looked like a woman who meant business, not a wallflower, not a forgotten daughter. My parents were already there, front and center, beaming with unadulterated pride, posing for photos with Leo, who looked surprisingly nervous and pale in his ill-fitting cap and gown, his eyes darting around as if searching for an escape route. He knew, deep down, that he didn't deserve this. He'd coasted, relying on their connections and my hidden efforts, and the weight of that truth, I hoped, was finally crushing him. The graduation ceremony itself was a blur of academic platitudes and self-congratulatory pomp and circumstance. Speakers droned on about the nobility of the law, the pursuit of justice, the bright future awaiting these privileged graduates. My parents clapped enthusiastically every time Leo's name was mentioned, their faces glowing with a self-satisfied pride that grated on my nerves, a constant reminder of their selective adoration. I remained seated, a ghost in their celebration, observing, waiting, my heart a cold, hard stone in my chest. The air hummed with my suppressed energy, a silent anticipation. Finally, the moment arrived. Leo's name was called. He walked across the stage, accepted his diploma with a hesitant smile, and posed for a stiff photo with a smiling dean. My parents erupted in cheers, louder and more ostentatious than anyone else's, as if he were the only graduate in the entire hall, as if his mere presence was a monumental achievement. I remained seated, my hands clasped tightly in my lap, a solitary, unmoving figure in a sea of effusive celebration. I was an observer, a witness, preparing to become the architect of their downfall. After the ceremony, the sea of graduates and their proud families spilled out onto the university's sprawling manicured lawn. My family had staked out a prime spot under a grand ancient oak tree, its branches spreading wide like welcoming arms. The scene was picture perfect. Balloons bobbing in the gentle breeze, a cooler filled with celebratory champagne and sparkling cider, a custom-made banner proclaiming, "Congratulations, Leo, Esquire, the future of Vance and Sons-Law." Relatives I hadn't seen in years, aunts, uncles, distant cousins, flocked around them, offering congratulations, their voices loud and effusive, their eyes shining with reflected glory. My parents, basking in the glow, acted like benevolent monarchs, accepting tributes for their golden prince. "Naomi, there you are!" Mom called out, spotting me across the crowded lawn. Her voice was tinged with irritation, as if my very presence, however dutifully delivered, was an inconvenience, a slight disruption to their perfect narrative. "Come here, take a picture with your brother. We need to capture this moment. It's going to be in the family album." I walked towards them, a slow, deliberate pace, my gaze locked onto Leo's. He looked increasingly uncomfortable, his usual cocky demeanor replaced by a subtle nervousness that flickered in his eyes. He knew. Deep down, he knew. He knew what I was capable of, even if my parents remained stubbornly, willfully ignorant. He knew the truth, even if he tried to bury it under layers of denial and superficial charm. "Oh, Naomi, you look nice," Mom said, her eyes flicking over my sharp power suit, a hint of disapproval, a familiar judgment in her tone. A little severe for a family celebration, perhaps, but, well, now, come on, smile. Big smiles for Leo. This is his big day. She reached for my arm, trying to pull me closer for a forced family photo. Before we take pictures, I said, my voice cutting through the celebratory din like a finely sharpened blade, calm and clear, carrying farther than I intended, making heads turn, making conversations falter. There's something I think everyone here should know. Something about Leo's journey to becoming a lawyer. Something about the true cost of this celebration. My parents froze, their forced smiles faltering, replaced by expressions of dawning horror. Leo's eyes widened, a flicker of pure fear in them. A deer caught in headlights. Marcus, a smug retired lawyer and close family friend who'd come along, chuckled, oblivious. What is it, Naomi? A toast? A little sisterly anecdote about Leo's academic prowess? Oh, it's an anecdote, all right, I said, my voice hardening but still controlled, chillingly so. It's about sacrifice. My sacrifice, specifically. You see, 4 years ago, I received a full scholarship to MIT to study computer science. A full ride. Every penny covered, tuition, housing, books, an opportunity most students only dream of. I paused, letting the words hang in the air, watching the shock register on the faces of the relatives and family friends gathered around us, their polite smiles melting into expressions of disbelief and dawning comprehension. Murmurs began to ripple through the crowded lawn, like a disturbance spreading through still water. Mom stepped forward, her face paling, her eyes wide with frantic desperation. Naomi, what are you doing? This is not the time. This is a private family matter. She hissed, trying to pull me aside. This is exactly the time, Mom, I countered, my eyes burning into hers, unwavering, relentless. Because this is Leo's day, isn't it? The day you've all been celebrating. The day I helped make possible, whether you acknowledge it or not. The day that serves as a monument to your choices. I turned slowly to address the growing crowd, raising my voice slightly so everyone, even those on the fringes, could hear. My parents, I continued, my voice resonating with power, tore up that scholarship letter. They told me computer science isn't for girls like you. They said Leo needed real support for law school. So they forced me to give up my dream, to pay for his tuition, his exorbitant apartment, his fancy car, his every whim, all while I worked my way through a dead-end data entry job. They sacrificed my future for his, without a moment's hesitation, without a single regret. A collective gasp swept through the crowd, like a sudden gust of wind. Faces turned from my parents to me, then to Leo, then back to my parents. Disbelief and outrage etched across their features. Whispers began to turn into hushed, pointed conversations. Sarah Jenkins, the reporter, discreetly raised her phone, her subtle movements betraying her professional excitement. She was recording everything, capturing every nuance of their unraveling. That's not true, Dad boomed, his face turning a furious beet red, the vein in his temple throbbing violently. He looked ready to explode. Naomi, you're lying. This is insane. You're just jealous. You've always been jealous. Jealous? I laughed, a sharp, bitter, triumphant sound that sliced through the tension. Jealous of what, Dad? The mediocre grades? The constant handouts? The empty promises? Or the pathetic lie you've all been living? Convincing yourselves of your benevolence? I looked directly at Leo, who had shrunk back, visibly trembling, his face pale, his eyes wide with a mixture of shame and raw fear. Leo, tell them. Tell them how many times I helped you with your papers. Tell them who actually wrote your admissions essay for you when you were too stressed to do it yourself. Tell them about the study money you wasted on gambling and partying, while I worked 2 jobs to survive, while I built my own future, alone. Leo flinched, unable to meet my gaze, his eyes fixed on the ground, his face a picture of utter humiliation. The silence that followed was deafening, a thick, suffocating blanket woven from shattered illusions and undeniable truth. The beaming smiles on my parents' faces had completely dissolved, replaced by masks of horror, desperate denial, and dawning realization. I didn't need their permission to pursue my dreams. I continued, my voice unwavering, addressing the silent, stunned crowd, a captive audience to their downfall. I built my own tech company, Nexus Innovations, from my tiny bedroom with no capital, no support, just my own skills, my own sweat, and my own burning determination. We specialize in advanced inventory management systems. Groundbreaking stuff. And guess what? We're a multi-million-dollar company now. We've been featured in Forbes, in TechCrunch, in every major tech publication. We're disrupting the industry. We're hiring brilliant people. We're changing the game. I paused, letting the magnitude of that sink in, watching their faces contort with utter disbelief and profound shock. The relatives, once so effusive in their praise of Leo, were now looking at me with a mixture of awe and dawning respect. The inventory system I built for your architectural firm, Dad, I said, turning back to him, my voice piercing the silence like a surgeon's scalpel. The one that increased your profits by 30% last year, that you bragged about at every industry event. That was my first major project for Nexus Innovations. You benefited directly from the very playing with computers you scorned, the fantasy you dismissed, the very thing you tried to take from me. My mother whimpered, a small, choked sound, her hands flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with a horrifying realization of the public disgrace. My father looked as if he'd been punched repeatedly in the gut. His powerful frame suddenly diminished, his face contorted in a mixture of disbelief, utter humiliation, and a dawning terrible regret. Leo finally found his voice, a weak, pathetic stammer, his eyes still fixed on the ground. Naomi, why are you doing this? How could you? Why am I doing this, Leo? I echoed, stepping closer to him, my voice filled with a lifetime of suppressed pain now given full, devastating voice. Because today is your graduation. The day you're supposed to be celebrated for your achievements. But those achievements came at my expense, at the cost of my dreams, my self-worth, my very identity. And it's time for the truth to be heard. It's time for everyone to know the true cost of your success and my parents' favoritism. It's time to expose the golden child and the parents who enabled him at the expense of their other child, the child they discarded. The crowd was buzzing now, a cacophony of whispers turning into hushed, agitated conversations. Someone in the back pulled out a phone, openly recording. Others discreetly followed suit. Sarah Jenkins, the reporter, appeared at my elbow, no longer discreetly observing. Her presence was now overt, her camera held openly, her eyes gleaming with professional satisfaction, a triumphant smile playing on her lips. Naomi Vance? She asked, her voice loud enough for those nearby to hear, yet respectful. The CEO of Nexus Innovations? I'd love to get your full story. An exclusive. Are you ready to talk about how you built your multi-million-dollar empire after your family denied your dreams and stole your future? I looked at my family one last time. Mom was still crying, her face a mask of crumpled despair, her carefully applied makeup streaked with tears. Dad looked utterly broken, his shoulders slumped, his carefully constructed facade of control and authority shattered, his eyes reflecting a deep, hollow emptiness. Leo was still staring at his diploma on the ground, his golden boy image irrevocably tarnished, his future now uncertain, his supposed triumph turned to ashes. Naomi, please! Mom reached for my arm again, her touch a desperate, familiar plea, attempting to pull me back into the orbit of their control, their narrative. Don't do this. We can fix this. We can be a family again. We'll make it up to you. I gently, firmly pulled away from her grip. Her touch no longer held power over me. The invisible chains had snapped, not just the financial ones, but the emotional ones too. We were never a family, Mom, I said, my voice soft but resolute, a profound sadness mingling with my resolve. Not in the way a family should be. We were just people who lived in the same house while you invested everything. Your money, your love, your praise, your very being. in Leo and expected me to be grateful for the scraps. You expected me to be content with being a resource, a background character in his story. That's not a family. That's an arrangement of convenience for you. A convenient way to elevate one child while crushing another. That's not true. Dad choked out, still trying to salvage something, anything, from the wreckage of his reputation. It is true, I countered, my eyes holding his. Unwavering, unflinching. And now everyone knows it. The world knows it. I turned and walked away with Sarah, leaving them standing in the crowded parking lot, exposed, humiliated, surrounded by strangers with cameras and curious stares, their whispers turning into outright conversations, their reputation irrevocably damaged. The sunlight, once a symbol of celebration, now seemed to highlight their disgrace. Any regrets? Sarah asked as we reached her car, a slight, knowing smile playing on her lips. She understood the weight of what I had done, the profound courage it had taken. I pulled out my phone and opened a message that had arrived just that morning, a quiet reassurance in the midst of the chaos. It was from Dr. Eris Thorne, a brilliant computer scientist and renowned venture capitalist whom I had met through a mutual connection, and who had recently invested heavily in Nexus Innovations, becoming both an investor and a mentor. Naomi, the message read, his words a balm to my soul. Your vision and resilience are truly inspiring. Thank you for giving me the chance to support a talent your family never would. I won't waste it. This is just the beginning. The future is yours. None, I said, looking out at the vast, promising horizon of my future. A wide, open expanse of possibility. Not a single one. Behind us, I could hear Mom calling my name one last time. A desperate, fading cry, tinged with a raw, primal grief. But I didn't turn around. I had spent 4 years looking back, waiting for them to see me, to value me, to treat me like I mattered. I was done waiting. I was done looking back. My journey was forward, towards a future I had built myself, brick by painful, glorious brick, without their help, without their blessing, but with my own unwavering strength and resolve. In the days and weeks that followed Leo's graduation, the story exploded. Sarah Jenkins's article published with the headline, MIT Scholar Sacrificed for Brother's Law Degree, How Naomi Vance Built a Tech Empire After Her Family Tore Up Her Dreams, went viral, picked up by national news outlets like the New York Times, CNN, and shared endlessly across every social media platform. The piece meticulously detailed my struggles, my parents' blatant favoritism, Leo's mediocrity disguised by privilege, and my defiant self-made rise. Screenshots of Leo's actual, poor, academic record and glowing reviews of Nexus Innovations were plastered everywhere, side by side. The public was outraged, fascinated, and overwhelmingly on my side, showering me with messages of support and solidarity. My parents' carefully constructed facade of respectability and benevolence crumbled into dust. My father's architectural firm faced immediate public backlash, losing major clients and facing widespread boycotts. His reputation, once pristine, was now irrevocably tarnished. My mother, once the proud, impeccably dressed matriarch of their perfect family, became a pariah in her social circles, ostracized by former friends and charity boards. Their phone rang constantly, not with well wishes, but with angry denunciations, disgusted questions from genuinely concerned relatives who had been kept in the dark for years, and even threats. They were forced to face the harsh, undeniable consequences of their actions, not in the comfortable privacy of our living room, but on a very public, unforgiving stage. Leo, once the golden boy, found himself utterly alone. The prestigious job offers he had been so confident about evaporated overnight. His former classmates shunned him, disgusted by the public revelations of his deceit and the extent of his privilege. His law degree, earned through manipulation and parental sacrifice, felt worthless, a symbol of his family's warped values, rather than his own merit. He tried to reach out to me, leaving tearful, rambling voicemails, begging for forgiveness. desperately blaming our parents, pathetically clinging to any shred of his former life, of his former status. I never responded. I had offered my truth, and now he and they had to live with its devastating repercussions. My life, however, soared to unimaginable heights. Nexus Innovations gained unprecedented exposure and credibility. Our client base expanded exponentially, from small startups to Fortune 500 companies. Investors flocked to us, eager to partner with a company founded on such a powerful story of resilience, innovation, and integrity. Dr. Thorne became more than just an investor. He became a true mentor, a wise, generous champion of my vision, providing not just capital but invaluable strategic guidance and connections within the tech world. I moved into a sprawling, sun-drenched loft in a vibrant tech hub, hired dozens of brilliant employees, and began to truly build the future I had always dreamed of, unfettered by their expectations. The most profound change wasn't just my professional success, but my personal liberation. The constant, insidious need for parental approval, the invisible chains of their expectations, had finally snapped, dissolving into nothingness. I was free. Free to choose my own path. Free to define my own success. Free to build my own family of choice. Friends, colleagues, mentors, and eventually a partner who saw me for who I was, who valued my contributions, and who celebrated my successes without reservation or hidden agendas. I learned that true strength isn't about enduring endless abuse or constantly trying to earn love that will never be given freely. It's about recognizing your own inherent worth, setting fierce, unyielding boundaries, and having the courage to walk away from anyone, even family, who diminishes you, who fails to see your light. It's about building a life so authentically yours, so undeniably successful on your own terms, that their past rejections, their attempts to control and belittle you, become utterly irrelevant, mere distant echoes in the grand symphony of your triumph. My family continued to try to contact me for a time, their calls and messages becoming less accusatory and more desperate, eventually fading into a profound, chilling silence. I never looked back. The pain was still a part of my story, a jagged scar that reminded me of where I came from and what I had overcome, but it no longer defined me. It was simply the crucible in which my true strength, my unwavering resilience, and my authentic self had been forged. I had chosen self-respect over familial obligation, integrity over compromise, and in doing so, I had not only saved myself but had inadvertently shown them the bitter truth of their own terrible choices. And sometimes, the most satisfying revenge is simply letting people experience the natural consequences of their own appalling decisions, while you build something infinitely better, more beautiful, and more fulfilling somewhere else, entirely on your own terms. Have you ever had to choose between your dreams and your family's expectations? How did you navigate that treacherous path and find your own success, your own freedom? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt dismissed, unappreciated, or exploited by those closest to you, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life experiences about standing up for yourself, reclaiming your narrative, and finding your true power. And please, share this with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to prioritize their own well-being and happiness, that their dignity is never for sale. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, your dignity, your dreams, your future, they are never for sale. Your worth is inherent, not granted by others.